The morning was calm and bright near the blue coast. Oh, the day after the bombing, the world moved in slow shock. News channels repeated the images of the orphanage in flames. Families held their children tighter. Streets were quieter than usual. Shops opened late. The sky seemed heavier without the early birds singing. People did not know what to say. They did not know what to hope for. But Daniel sat in a temporary shelter with Lila and a few other children who survived. Their faces were pale, eyes wide. Some had burns, some had small cuts. Daniel tried to give comfort. He told stories of small victories from the past. He reminded them of games they had played together. He pointed to the small flowers growing at the edge of the broken garden. Even in rubble, green life pushed through. Lila did not speak. She only touched the plant she had saved from the blast, running her fingers over the soft leaves. She stared at it as though it held the memory of everyone lost. Daniel watched her, feeling the weight of the silence. Governments around the world were discussing responses. Some leaders suggested accepting the alien statement. They said anger would lead to war. Others demanded retaliation. They said humanity had been insulted and children had been killed. They argued. They spoke for hours in rooms filled with cameras, officials, and soldiers. But no decision was made. Every proposal seemed small compared to the horror of that day. Meanwhile, factories that had once built machines for peace began to hum with a different purpose. Engineers and workers were called in. Instructions arrived from governments and councils. Every factory, every shipyard, every lab was told to prepare for a new type of work. Humans would build ships, weapons, and defense systems. Earth's resources were mobilized quietly, without announcing war, without alerting the alien fleet above. Daniel helped transport supplies for these preparations. He did not understand much about weapons or engines. He only knew that helping people stay safe was what he could do. Many other civilians joined. Volunteers worked day and night. No one rested much. Everyone carried grief and fear, but they also carried determination. In orbit, the alien fleet watched Earth. Their ships hovered silently, shining under the sun. Alien officers discussed the event in cool voices. They assumed humans were emotional. They assumed anger would fade. They believed the destruction of a single building would teach a lesson. They laughed quietly, convinced the humans would remain divided and weak. They did not see the change happening in secret. They did not see preparation back on Earth. Children who had survived the blast were placed with temporary caregivers. Daniel stayed near Lila. He helped her eat and sleep. At night, he whispered stories of worlds beyond the clouds and oceans. Lila listened quietly, sometimes turning her face away. Sometimes she looked at him, searching for reassurance he could not fully give. News reporters came to interview survivors. Daniel refused most of them. He did not want the children to be used for politics or fame. One reporter asked him why he stayed with the children instead of joining councils or armies.
"Because someone has to be here," Daniel said softly.
Because someone has to remind them that life still matters. That night, world leaders met again. The council room was colder than before. Screens displayed live images of cities holding vigils. People lit candles. Families cried. The weight of the loss was everywhere. Some leaders argued that humanity should accept the alien apology and move on. Others said that action was necessary, but no, one could agree on what kind of action. Marcus, the general who had quietly prepared fleets the day before, remained calm. He observed it. He listened, and when the room grew loud with shouting, he spoke. "We must understand what has changed," he said. "The world is not the same. Our people are not the same. Children are gone. Innocence is gone, and they will never forgive us if we do nothing." His words did not create immediate action, but they planted something. Fear? Respect? Determination? Perhaps all three. The leaders could not deny the truth in his words, and slowly they began to consider plans beyond talking and waiting. Meanwhile, the alien empire grew more confident. Officers watched reports of human mourning and discussions. They said humans were emotional. They said anger would fade. They had not yet understood the depth of human reaction. They did not know that across Earth, children had died and that grief had become determination. The loss of life was not just a tragedy. It had become a spark. Daniel walked through the temporary shelters, seeing the children struggle. He saw their fear. He saw their confusion. He saw the anger and sadness. He tried to remind them of games and stories, but he also tried to teach them hope. Small victories were important. Every flower growing in broken soil was proof that life continued. In one corner, a boy named Thomas tried to draw a picture of the orphanage before it burned. He held his pencil tightly, tears falling on the paper. Daniel knelt beside him. "It is okay," Daniel said. "You can draw it again. We will build a place for you again." Thomas nodded slowly but did not speak. Even in the darkest corners, small acts of care reminded people of their humanity. Volunteers cleaned streets, carried water, and helped rebuild small areas destroyed by the shockwave from the strike. People who had never met before worked together, united by loss and the desire to protect the living. Meanwhile, at a hidden command center, scientists worked on plans for space fleets. Engineers designed ships that could reach orbit faster, with armor never seen before. Satellites were launched to monitor the alien fleet. Communications were strengthened. Strategy rooms became active at all hours. Humans learned quickly, faster than anyone expected. Back in the city, Daniel took Lila to the edge of the broken garden. They planted the small green plant in a new spot. The soil was uneven, and smoke from the destroyed building still rose in places. But Daniel spoke softly to her as he pressed the plant into the ground. "We will make it grow," he said. She did not answer. In the nights that followed, protests began around the world. People demanded action. Some shouted for peace. Some shouted for war. Streets filled with voices. Governments watched carefully. The alien empire continued to hover above, still believing humans would fade back into fear. They were wrong. From hidden shipyards, human fleets began to move. Small ships tested engines. Large ships practiced maneuvers. Weapons were built and tested in quiet zones. Every action was measured and precise. Humans learned to act with speed and discipline, not just emotion. Daniel returned to the children each night. He read stories, reminded them of safe places, and listened when they spoke of lost friends. He saw in their eyes a reflection of the world's grief, but also a glimmer of resilience. The orphanage was gone, but life had not ended. On the global stage, Marcus prepared his final recommendations to the council. He knew that the world was at a turning point. Humanity had two choices: accept the apology and remain vulnerable, or prepare fully and ensure no one could ever threaten their children again. In his private office, he wrote orders. Quietly, ships were to be deployed. Fleets were to be trained. Soldiers and civilians alike were told to prepare. Every secret move increased the strength of humanity, invisible to the alien empire above. And above all, a simple rule was clear: humans would not strike first. Humans would strike only to survive, to protect their children, to make the sky safe again. By the end of the second day, the world had not yet declared war. No one knew if war would come, but something had changed. Humanity had awakened. Across the continents, families mourned. Children were safe in temporary shelters. Streets were quiet and tense. Factories worked in secret. Fleets moved in hidden locations. Leaders debated and prepared. Citizens watched the skies nervously. And, in the shadows, Daniel sat with Lila, pressing small green leaves into the soil and whispering stories of hope. He knew that the world above would not forget the children lost. But he also knew that Earth itself had learned something vital. For the first time in history, humanity was ready. Not for vengeance, not for conquest, but for survival. And the alien fleet above continued to shine in the sky, unaware that the humans they had underestimated were already preparing to respond. Weeks passed since the bombing, but the memory of the destruction stayed alive in the minds of everyone on Earth. Cities had returned to some form of normal life, but a quiet tension remained. People watched the sky differently. Parents held their children closer. Children learned to notice the smallest signs of movement in the clouds above, and everywhere humans worked in secret to strengthen themselves. Daniel continued to care for Lila and the other surviving children. He walked them along safe paths in the city, showing them that life could continue. They found small joys in games, stories, and even small plants growing between cracks in the streets. Each child healed slowly. Each child learned to trust again, but behind their playfulness, a shadow remained. The orphanage they loved, the people they counted on, were gone. Meanwhile, hidden deep underground, the world's leading scientists and engineers worked around the clock. They were building ships that could travel faster than the eye could follow. They designed new defense systems, new weapons, and new strategies. Nothing was left to chance. Humanity was preparing for the first time in history to face a true alien threat with the full force of knowledge, discipline, and determination. In orbit, alien forces observed Earth. Their analysis showed an unusual pattern. Ships and communications were increasing. Factories were active in ways they had never expected. The alien empire believed humans were emotional, but even they could not explain the sudden speed and organization of Earth's response. One junior officer reported the anomaly, but the higher commanders dismissed it. Humans are emotional. They will burn out. They will fail, they said. No one in their command understood the core truth. Humans were not acting out of simple anger. They were acting with purpose. Every ship built, every fleet deployed, every strategy rehearsed was a calculated step to ensure survival. Marcus, now deeply involved in the planning, oversaw simulations of fleet movements. He trained his commanders to anticipate alien strategies. They tested attacks on virtual enemy outposts, learning to disable alien defenses quickly. Every simulation revealed the aliens' arrogance and underestimation. Humans were clever. Humans were fast, and above all, humans were determined. In the northern cities, volunteer groups organized supply lines for the upcoming missions. Civilians learned basic tactics. They were taught to protect equipment, manage communications, and move supplies quietly. Even teenagers participated, carrying messages, repairing small machines, and monitoring drones. The alien fleet above still saw only ordinary human activity, completely unaware of the scale and speed of the preparation below. Back on Earth, Daniel noticed a subtle change in Lila. She began speaking again, in small words, about the world outside. Sometimes she asked questions about the ships in the sky. Daniel answered carefully, telling her stories of exploration and survival. He never spoke of anger or revenge, only of strength and courage. Slowly, the children began to recover pieces of their lost innocence. They found small reasons to smile again, even if the shadows of that morning remained. Then, the first move came. A small fleet of human ships, led by General Marcus himself, left Earth quietly. They traveled in secret, undetected for days until they reached the edge of the alien border system. The fleet was small but highly advanced. It was designed not to destroy, but to capture strategic points. The goal was to disable alien defenses, learn their weaknesses, and prepare for any future attacks. The alien officers monitoring the border were initially dismissive. They saw the ships as probes, as small annoyances that would be easily destroyed. They prepared a small squadron to eliminate the human ships, expecting little resistance. They did not know what awaited them. The first encounter was shocking. The human fleet moved with precision and speed that the aliens had never seen. Shields blocked energy blasts before they could reach the ships. Electronic systems disrupted alien communications. Without warning, the human fleet disabled an entire outpost, cutting communications to the main empire. The aliens had expected chaos, anger, and panic. Instead, they saw discipline, strategy, and controlled action. Civilians in the outpost were unharmed. Alien soldiers who surrendered were treated carefully. The humans were terrifying, but they were careful. Every move was calculated, every step controlled. Back on Earth, news of the success slowly leaked. Not the details of the strike, but evidence of communication disruptions and alien confusion. People realized that humanity was no longer just reacting. Humans were capable of action beyond imagination. The shift in perception was subtle but powerful. Civilians began to trust that their leaders were acting with purpose. Soldiers gained confidence in their training. Scientists felt pride in their creations. And the children, those who survived, began to believe that their world could survive too. Daniel, watching from a secure location with other caregivers, could not contain his anxiety. He knew the risks the fleet had taken. He knew the danger to human lives, but he also understood the message being sent. The aliens would no longer see humans as weak, disorganized, or divided. Humanity had awakened, and its actions were deliberate, precise, and unstoppable when necessary. Inside the captured alien outpost, a young alien officer named Nira began to question the orders of her superiors. She had been trained to believe in the power of her empire, to accept orders without question. Now she saw humans acting with honor and purpose. They did not harm civilians. They did not destroy unnecessarily. They acted with restraint and control. Her confusion grew as she witnessed the humans' capability. Nira began to wonder if her empire had underestimated a species they thought simple and weak. In the command room of the alien empire, the senior officers were furious. They saw the small defeat as a minor setback, but a strange unease settled among them. Their calculations had not predicted this. One by one, reports came in of more disruptions along the border. Humans were moving faster than expected, attacking the infrastructure, disabling the systems that the Empire depended on. They were precise, efficient, and relentless. Marcus watched the reports on his screen. He knew the humans were making a statement. They were not looking for revenge. They were not angry in a chaotic way. They were disciplined, organized, and careful. They were preparing the galaxy for a new reality. Humanity's first strike was not the end of war, but it was a declaration. Humans could act with intelligence and precision when survival demanded it. Back on Earth, Daniel continued his quiet work with Lila and the other children. He knew the war had begun in a way that most could not yet see. The streets were busy again. People walked to work, attended school, and went about daily life. But behind that normalcy, the machinery of survival moved fast. Factories produced ships and weapons. Communications ran quietly. Fleets moved unseen. Every citizen contributed in some way. Lila began to ask questions about the stars. She wanted to know if humans could reach them. Daniel told her that they could, and that humans had always dreamed of touching the sky. He never mentioned the battle that had already begun beyond their atmosphere. He told her stories of exploration, courage, and determination. Slowly, hope returned to her eyes, small but persistent. The alien empire continued to send messages claiming that Earth's response was minor, that humans were emotional and would soon tire. They did not understand that human determination did not weaken with loss, it grew stronger. The loss of children at the orphanage, the destruction of the building, had not created fear. It had created a spark, a fire that would not be extinguished. In hidden training centers, human soldiers ran drills designed to anticipate every possible attack. They learned to coordinate with civilians, to use technology to disable enemy forces without unnecessary loss of life. Humans were learning faster than the aliens could predict. Each day brought new strategies, new understanding, new capability. Every human action was precise, controlled, and deliberate. And then another message came from the alien empire.
They demanded that the humans cease all activity near the border. They warned of consequences.
But Marcus knew that humanity had already crossed the point of fear. The message did not intimidate him. It only confirmed the path humanity had taken. They were ready to act if necessary. But they would act with discipline, not recklessness. Every life mattered. Every decision was calculated. Daniel looked at Lila one evening as they planted new flowers near the ruins of the old orphanage. He saw the glimmer of determination in her eyes. She had survived something terrible. She had lost everything, and yet she still wanted to live. She still wanted to grow. Humanity, Daniel thought, was like Lila. It had lost innocence. It had faced destruction. and it would rise stronger, wiser, and determined to survive. In orbit, alien officers continued to underestimate humans, but their system was beginning to fail. Communications were disrupted. Some outposts lost contact entirely. The Empire had assumed that a single strike would demonstrate weakness. Instead, they were learning that humans did not break. Humans adapted, organized, and struck back with careful precision. In the final scenes of this week, Marcus reviewed reports from the front line. Supplies were secured. Captured outposts provided intelligence. Civilians were safe. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. Their actions had shown the galaxy a new truth. Humans were unpredictable, clever, disciplined, and capable of strategy and mercy simultaneously. On Earth, Daniel held Lila's hand as they walked home. The streets were quiet. The night sky glimmered with stars. He did not speak of war or revenge. He only spoke of life, growth, and hope. The children were beginning to understand that even in loss, there was strength. Even in grief, there could be purpose. The orphanage might be gone, but humanity would not be broken. The world had awakened, and no one could underestimate its determination ever again. Months had passed since the orphanage was destroyed, but the world had changed completely. Humanity had grown stronger in ways the alien empire had not expected. Cities now worked like well-oiled machines. Factories built ships, weapons, and defensive systems around the clock. Scientists discovered new methods of energy storage and propulsion. Humans were no longer weak, unorganized, or afraid. They were prepared for war, but also careful to protect life whenever possible. Daniel continued to care for Lila and the other children. They traveled to different safe locations, away from danger zones where the children could play, learn, and slowly heal. Lila had begun to speak more each day. She no longer hid behind silence. She asked questions about the stars, about the ships humans were building, and about the strength of Earth. Daniel answered each question with patience, giving hope and courage without revealing the full scale of human preparation. In space, the alien empire remained confident. They had sent patrols and small fleets toward the border systems, expecting resistance from untrained humans. But when they reached Earth's fleet, they were surprised. Ships moved quickly and in perfect formation. Weapons fired with precision. Communication systems disrupted the alien sensors. Entire outposts fell into human hands without a single civilian casualty. Humans were not attacking recklessly. They were calculated, careful, and deadly when needed. The alien officers could not believe it. One by one, their fleets were disabled or captured. Reports reached the Emperor, who dismissed them at first. He believed humans were acting emotionally. But the mistakes kept growing. Each day, more of the Empire's plans failed because humans acted differently from what the aliens had calculated. Strategy, discipline, and the protection of life were factors the aliens had never expected. On Earth, Marcus oversaw the planning and coordination of human fleets. He studied alien behavior and learned how to anticipate their moves. Scientists developed advanced sensors, shielding systems, and artificial intelligence programs to manage fleets during battle. Humans were learning faster than anyone had predicted. Every simulation, every small engagement strengthened their understanding of the enemy. Preparation had become second nature. Daniel noticed the world shifting as he walked the children through a safe zone near a small lake. Even in simple moments, like throwing stones into the water or watching birds in flight, he saw determination in the children. They were survivors, and they were learning that life could continue even after tragedy. Lila helped another child plant a small garden near the lakeside. It was a small victory, but it mattered. Life was growing in the places where loss had been greatest. In orbit, alien officers grew increasingly worried. They saw human forces move quickly, strike accurately, and retreat when necessary. Communication lines collapsed under human hacking and disruption strategies. Alien commanders began to doubt their assumptions. The humans were unpredictable, clever, and adaptable. One officer, named Raul, began questioning orders. He had served the Empire faithfully, but he saw that humans did not act like any species he had ever encountered. They were precise, strong, and disciplined. Raul's doubts spread quietly among other officers. Some tried to report him, but the senior commanders were busy dealing with failures across multiple systems. The Empire was losing control, not through chaos, but through the skill and organization of humans who refused to be intimidated. On Earth, Marcus made a decision to expand the operations. He knew the human fleets could not destroy the alien empire alone, but they could disable it in critical areas. Supply lines were attacked, defensive installations captured, and strategic positions controlled. Humans acted not to harm civilians, but to ensure that their own safety and the safety of future generations was guaranteed. Every mission was executed with precision and discipline. Yet, humans were not reckless. They were unstoppable when guided by purpose. Daniel watched the skies at night with Lila. The stars were bright. He told her stories of far-off worlds and brave explorers. He did not tell her about the fleet that had disabled alien outposts. She asked questions about the ships in orbit, and Daniel gave careful answers. Slowly, she learned that humans could be strong and kind at the same time. That life could continue even after loss. That courage could exist even in fear. The alien empire responded with increased aggression. Superweapons were prepared. Patrol fleets increased. They demanded immediate surrender, but humanity had already shown that surrender was not an option. Not because they wanted war, but because survival demanded preparation and defense. The humans were not afraid of conflict. They were afraid only of losing the future. Across the galaxy, other species observed the unfolding events. Humans were not attacking without purpose. They were disciplined, careful, and unpredictable. Other civilizations began to study humanity with caution. The strange combination of mercy, intelligence, and speed in action was unlike any species they had encountered. Back on Earth, Daniel guided the children through a training exercise in the safe zones. They learned simple skills: how to find water, how to stay together, how to communicate quietly. These exercises were not about war, but about survival. Even children understood that the world had changed. Every step they took was preparation, not fear. Marcus reviewed the progress of the fleets. The human operations had captured several alien installations. Communications were disrupted. Supply routes had been cut. The Empire was confused and losing control. Yet humans did not rejoice in destruction. They showed restraint and mercy. Every life spared, every civilian unharmed, was a message to the galaxy. Humanity fought for survival, not for cruelty. Daniel returned to Lila as the sun set. They planted new seeds near the lake. Lila touched the soil gently and smiled slightly. The green sprouts were small, but they were proof that life continued. Daniel knew that humans like Lila would continue to grow, to survive, and to rise stronger than ever before. Humanity had awakened. They were disciplined, careful, and ready, and the galaxy would remember that lesson for generations. The galaxy had begun to feel the effects of humanity's calculated response. Alien patrols and border outposts were disrupted, supply lines cut, and critical installations were captured without unnecessary civilian casualties. Every movement of the human fleet showed discipline, precision, and a strategic mind that the alien empire had not expected. Reports of these actions reached the alien emperor, who had initially dismissed humans as weak and emotional. Now the emperor could not ignore the truth. On Earth, General Marcus coordinated the fleet from a secure command center. Every ship was accounted for. Every mission had a plan. Communications were clear, precise, and constant. Human forces moved like a single organism, each part knowing its role, each part acting with purpose. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders worked together to ensure maximum efficiency. Humans were preparing for more than defense. They were setting the stage to end the alien threat to Earth's safety once and for all. Daniel continued to care for the children. Lila had grown stronger and more confident. She no longer flinched at the sky. She watched the stars, curious and hopeful, asking questions about humans and space. Daniel answered carefully, telling her about explorers, scientists, and the careful preparation of humanity. He did not speak of battles, only of courage, strategy, and survival. Even in their small corner of the world, hope was growing. The alien empire escalated its response. Superweapons were prepared. Entire fleets were mobilized. They intended to destroy human colonies and strike deep into Earth's orbit. The Emperor believed that a show of extreme power would break the humans' resolve. Alien soldiers were briefed on the orders, unaware that the humans had already anticipated such aggression. Marcus and his commanders activated a new phase of strategy. They had built secret fleets, trained special teams, and prepared advanced weapon systems. Every human operation was designed to neutralize alien strength without harming civilians unnecessarily. Intelligence from captured outposts allowed humans to strike with precision and surprise. The alien empire was confident, but confidence became a weakness. The first engagement of this phase was sudden and overwhelming. Human fleets emerged from hidden jump points near key alien supply systems. They used speed, stealth, and advanced tactics to disable entire fleets before the aliens could react. Alien communications were cut. Their command systems were jammed. Entire battle groups vanished without warning. The Empire had never faced a threat like this. Humans fought not in anger, but with purpose. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate. Humans had turned strategy into an art form. Within the alien empire, confusion and panic spread. One officer, Raoul, had been questioning the Emperor's orders for weeks. Now, he realized that humanity's approach was not just clever, it was unstoppable if allowed to continue. He saw the moral strength of humans. They spared civilians. They avoided unnecessary destruction. They acted with intelligence and discipline. Raoul began to speak with other officers, urging them to reconsider their loyalty to the Emperor's reckless orders. Doubt spread like wildfire among the once confident ranks. Back on Earth, Daniel watched news feeds showing the success of human operations. He felt pride and fear at the same time. The humans were winning in space, but the cost of failure was immense. Every engagement could have ended in disaster. Yet, the preparation, the discipline, and the careful planning had ensured that humanity struck effectively without losing its soul. In hidden bases, engineers prepared the next phase. New ships were ready to deploy, armed with technology designed to disable the Empire's superweapons before they could be launched. Human fleets would neutralize threats before they reached Earth. Every maneuver, every operation was designed to protect life while ending the threat. Humans did not seek revenge. They sought survival and security. Marcus prepared a message for the alien emperor. It was calm, clear, and firm. Humans were not motivated by hatred. They were motivated by the need to survive and protect their children. The message showed evidence of the Empire's reckless actions, including the bombing of the orphanage. It demonstrated the consequences of underestimating humanity. The transmission was sent to the entire Empire, not just the Emperor. Every citizen, every soldier could see the truth. Humans were strong, disciplined, and capable of action beyond imagination. Alien leaders were forced to reconsider. The Emperor's orders were challenged from within. Officers like Raoul refused to obey commands that would risk civilians or alien lives unnecessarily. Rebellion began quietly. The Empire's internal structure was weakening. Humans had not attacked the homeworld yet, but their actions had already caused upheaval. The fear and respect for humanity spread through the galaxy. The Empire realized that humans were unpredictable, clever, and organized. They had underestimated a species that would not break under pressure. On Earth, Daniel took Lila and the children to a safe area where they could see a clear night sky. They planted new seeds, small green sprouts that symbolized life continuing. Daniel told Lila that humans had always dreamed of reaching the stars, and that courage, discipline, and intelligence could overcome even the greatest threats. She listened closely, understanding that survival required not only strength but careful thought and care for life. Humanity had learned to balance power with restraint, and that was what made them truly formidable. The alien empire attempted to launch superweapons, but human intelligence had already prepared countermeasures. Entire alien battle groups were disabled before they could strike. Systems that had never been breached were now under human control. Humans did not destroy everything. They acted with purpose, ensuring the survival of all who surrendered or were civilians. Each action was deliberate, measured, and precise. Humanity had become a force that could not be ignored. a species that could defend itself while preserving life whenever possible. The rebellion within the alien ranks grew stronger. Officers refused to obey destructive commands. Civilians demanded protection. Rahl became a key figure in organizing internal resistance. The alien emperor found himself isolated, his power weakened not by force, but by the intelligence, discipline, and morality of humanity. Humans had achieved a victory not just in battle, but in shaping the galaxy's perception of their strength and purpose. Daniel watched the children grow, strong and hopeful. Lila no longer flinched at the sky. She asked questions about humanity's progress and about life in space. Daniel answered honestly but carefully, teaching lessons about courage, preparation, and responsibility. He knew that the children, like humanity itself, were learning to rise stronger after loss. The orphanage was gone, but life and hope were returning. Humanity had awakened, prepared, and disciplined, and the galaxy had taken notice. As the operations continued, Marcus monitored the progress. Human fleets disabled alien threats with precision. Captured intelligence allowed them to anticipate moves and act swiftly. Each successful mission strengthened humanity's position. The Empire could no longer rely on fear or arrogance. The humans had shown that they could act decisively, carefully, and without unnecessary cruelty. Their discipline and strategy had turned the tide, not through chaos or anger, but through calculated, effective action. Daniel looked at Lila, planting the last seeds of the evening, and smiled softly. He knew that humanity had learned a lesson stronger than fear, more lasting than revenge. Discipline, intelligence, and care for life had made humans unstoppable. The galaxy would remember that lesson, and humanity would continue to grow, stronger and wiser than ever before. The battle was not over, but the direction was clear. Humans had claimed the respect of the galaxy, not through hatred, but through strategy, strength, and the protection of life. The universe would never underestimate them again. The final phase of humanity's preparation was underway. Months of careful training, planning, and building had led to this moment. The alien empire had grown uneasy. Their fleets had suffered losses, critical installations had been captured. Internal rebellion threatened their stability. Yet the humans had not acted recklessly. They had shown restraint and discipline, earning the respect and fear of civilizations across the galaxy. On Earth, Daniel continued to care for Lila and the other children. They traveled to a quiet region where the stars were clear and the night sky stretched endlessly. Lila had grown stronger, braver, and wiser. She no longer flinched at the sky or the sound of distant alarms. She asked questions about human strength, courage, and the stars beyond. Daniel answered carefully, focusing on hope, resilience, and the careful balance of action and responsibility. Every lesson reminded her that life could continue even after tragedy. In orbit, human fleets gathered at hidden jump points. Ships of every size and capability were ready. Every weapon system, sensor, and command center was operational. Human commanders reviewed strategies for disabling alien superweapons and outposts. Intelligence from captured installations allowed them to predict alien movements and counter their tactics effectively. Humans were prepared, disciplined, and precise. The alien empire sent urgent orders to mobilize. Entire fleets moved toward the human perimeter. They intended to crush the humans before they could act further. The Emperor believed humans would panic, that their emotional nature would betray them. But the humans were not emotional in that sense. They were calm, controlled, and determined. Every ship, every soldier, every civilian involved in logistics understood their role. Humans had become a single coordinated force ready to respond. Marcus oversaw the deployment. He had studied alien tactics carefully and anticipated their moves. Human ships emerged from hidden positions and engaged with precision. Alien squadrons were met with coordinated defense and countermeasures. Shields absorbed energy blasts. Systems disrupted alien communications. Critical targets were neutralized with minimal destruction. Humans acted with the careful precision of a species that understood the value of life and strategy. Each move was calculated, and each outcome was monitored. The alien officers, including Rahl, observed in disbelief. They had assumed humans would be reckless, acting on fear or anger. Instead, humans were disciplined, precise, and strategic. Even when their ships disabled alien systems, they spared lives whenever possible. This combination of strength, strategy, and moral restraint confused and unnerved the Empire. Reports of human successes continued to flood command centers. Each victory, though strategic, also carried a message. Humans were strong, clever, and merciful when they could afford to be. Back on Earth, civilians continued to work behind the scenes. Factories produced ships and equipment. Scientists and engineers ran simulations and improved technology. Volunteers managed logistics, supplies, and communications. The world moved in coordinated effort. Everyone understood the importance of each task. Every action, from smallest repair to fleet deployment, contributed to humanity's preparedness. The loss of the orphanage, the deaths of the children, had ignited this determination. Humanity would never again appear weak or disorganized to those who threatened it. Daniel and Lila watched the skies. The stars were bright, the night silent except for distant hums of human activity. Lila asked about the distant fleets, about humans traveling far from Earth. Daniel spoke of preparation, courage, and restraint. He told her that humans acted not from hatred, but from necessity, intelligence, and care. They fought not to destroy, but to protect and survive. Lila listened, understanding that humanity had learned a powerful lesson from loss. Survival required discipline, planning, and protection of life whenever possible. The human fleets advanced, striking key alien outposts and disabling superweapons. Every engagement was calculated. Every strike minimized risk to civilians. Captured alien personnel were treated with care. Humans demonstrated not only their military strength, but their moral discipline. Across the galaxy, other species watched and began to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. This species, they realized, was intelligent, disciplined, and unpredictable. Humanity's rise was not based on anger or revenge, but on strategy and careful preparation. Within the alien empire, rebellion and doubt spread. Officers refused to obey reckless orders. Civilians questioned leadership. Raoul and other dissenting officers organized quietly, aware that humanity's discipline and intelligence were reshaping the balance of power. The Emperor, isolated and confused, could no longer rely on fear or intimidation alone. Humanity had demonstrated a new kind of strength, intelligent, disciplined, and morally grounded. On Earth, Daniel guided the children through new activities. They planted more gardens, learned basic survival skills, and practiced communication and observation exercises. Lila had grown confident and strong. She knew that humans were capable of protecting life, even in the face of overwhelming danger. She understood that loss did not mean weakness, but could inspire strength and preparation. Every child who survived the orphanage bombing was a witness to the resilience and discipline of humanity. Marcus continued to oversee operations. Every human success in space reinforced the lesson. Humanity was prepared, disciplined, and capable of striking with precision when necessary. Alien movements were anticipated. Communications were disrupted. Critical systems were disabled. Humanity had transformed from a species perceived as emotional and weak to one respected, feared, and understood across the galaxy. Discipline, preparation, and moral restraint were their weapons as much as shields and cannons. Daniel looked at Lila one night as they walked near the planted gardens. The stars reflected in her eyes. He spoke softly, telling her stories of exploration and courage. He reminded her that humanity had risen stronger from tragedy. Lila nodded, understanding that strength was not just in weapons or fleets, but in discipline, intelligence, and care for life. Humanity had proven that survival required strategy and restraint, not reckless anger. The final human operations disabled the last critical alien installations threatening Earth. Superweapons were neutralized, communication lines were captured. Alien fleets were disrupted. Humanity had established a position of strength and deterrence. The alien empire, once confident and arrogant, now faced the disciplined and calculated force of a prepared species. Humans had not sought revenge. They had acted to protect their future, their children, and their world. Across Earth, people celebrated quietly. Factories continued production, scientists continued research, and volunteers managed logistics. The children survivors of the orphanage continued to grow and learn, embodying the resilience of the species. Daniel held Lila's hand, proud of how she had faced loss and learned strength. The lessons of that terrible day had transformed not only humanity's military, but also its spirit. In orbit, the alien empire reconsidered every strategy. The lesson was clear. Humans were disciplined, intelligent, and careful. They could not be underestimated. The combination of moral restraint, careful preparation, and strategic action had changed the balance of power. Humanity had awakened fully, prepared for total war, but guided by the protection of life. The galaxy understood that humanity was no longer weak or divided. Humanity was united, disciplined, and unstoppable when necessary. On Earth, Daniel and Lila planted the final set of seedlings in the quiet night. The small green sprouts symbolized resilience, hope, and the future. Life had returned, stronger than before. Humanity had faced destruction, loss, and fear, and had emerged disciplined, intelligent, and prepared. The galaxy would remember the day humans proved their strength not through chaos, but through strategy, courage, and care. And humanity, like Lila and the children, would continue to grow, survive, and thrive, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Saf, the small city. The sea moved in slow waves, touching the rocks with soft sound. A large white building stood near the shore. It was old but clean. This building was an orphanage. Children lived there from many places. Some had lost parents in accidents. Some had been left behind during hard times. Inside those walls, they found food, beds, school lessons, and something even more important, they found care. Daniel walked across the garden with a small metal watering can in his hand. He was not old, but he was not young either. His hair was dark and short. His face was serious most of the time, but the children knew he had a soft heart. He had worked at the orphanage for 6 years. He knew every child by name. He knew who liked to draw and who liked to run. He knew who woke up from bad dreams at night. That morning, he was helping the children plant flowers in the soil near the front gate. The ground was warm from the sun. A little boy named Arif pushed his small shovel too deep into the earth and almost fell forward. The other children laughed. Daniel helped him stand and showed him how to move slowly. Near the steps, a girl named Lila sat on the ground. She was quiet most days, but her eyes were sharp and full of questions. She was holding a tiny green plant in her hand. She looked up at the sky. There were thin white lines high above. They were not clouds. They were trails left by ships entering orbit. Everyone on Earth had seen them many times during the past month. Lila stood and walked to Daniel. "Are they still there?" she asked, pointing up. Daniel followed her finger. Far above, small shining dots moved slowly. "Yes," he said. "They are still there." "Are they watching us?" she asked. Daniel paused before answering. "Maybe," he said softly, "but watching does not mean harm." He was not sure if he believed his own words. For weeks, strange ships had stayed near Earth. They belonged to an alien empire that had only recently made open contact. The first meetings had been calm. There had been talks between leaders, promises of trade, promises of peace. But then, the alien fleet had grown larger. Governments said it was normal. They said it was only a show of strength. They said there was no danger. Daniel tried to believe that inside the orphanage. The morning bell rang for breakfast. The children rushed in with energy. The smell of bread and eggs filled the hall. Caretakers moved between tables, smiling and guiding small hands. On a large screen mounted on the wall, a news channel played quietly. A reporter stood in front of a government building in the capital. "Officials continue talks with the alien delegation," the reporter said. Both sides described the discussions as stable. Stable. Daniel did not like that word. It sounded careful. It sounded unsure. After breakfast, the older children gathered in the study room. The younger ones played with wooden blocks in the main hall. Sunlight came through wide windows and painted the floor in gold light. Then every phone in the building vibrated at the same time. A loud alarm sound followed. The large screen on the wall changed to a red warning message. Orbital alert. Unknown energy surge detected. For 1 second, no one moved. Then the sirens outside began to scream. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He ran to the window and looked up. One of the shining dots in the sky was growing brighter. It was moving fast. Too fast. "Everyone away from the windows!" he shouted. Caretakers grabbed children. Some children began to cry because of the noise. The ground began to shake lightly, like a small earthquake. Far above the clouds, a single alien strike craft separated from a larger ship. Its surface was smooth and dark. No human weapon had ever touched it. In a command room light years away, an alien officer watched a holographic map. The officer's skin was pale gray. Its eyes were narrow and calm. It listened to a report. "Energy signal confirmed below," another voice said. "Probability of military node," the officer replied. 81%. The officer did not ask about the remaining 19%. "Fire one precision beam," it ordered. Back on Earth, Daniel was pushing children toward the inner hallway. He could hear people shouting outside. Car horns, dogs barking. Lila stood frozen near the main door, still holding the small green plant. "Lila," Daniel called. She looked at him but did not move. The sky flashed white. There was no loud explosion at first. Only a strange, deep sound, like the air itself breaking. A beam of bright blue light fell from the sky and struck the center of the orphanage. The world turned into fire. The roof vanished. Walls shattered into dust and stone. Windows became sharp rain. The ground cracked. A wave of heat pushed outward and knocked cars onto their sides. Daniel felt himself thrown across the hallway. His ears rang. For a moment he could not see. Then the sound came. It was a roar so loud it swallowed all other noise. When the light faded, half of the building was gone. Smoke rose into the sky. The garden where the children had planted flowers was a burning crater. Daniel tried to stand. His leg hurt, but it moved. He looked around through dust and broken beams. "Arif!" he called. No answer. "Lila." He coughed as smoke filled his lungs. Small cries came from somewhere under fallen wood. He moved toward the sound and pulled away broken pieces. His hands bled, but he did not stop. He found 2 children alive under a table that had fallen, in a way that protected them. He carried them outside into the street. The entire block was in chaos. Buildings nearby had lost windows. Fire alarms screamed. People ran in all directions. Above, the alien strike craft turned and returned to orbit. Emergency vehicles arrived within minutes. Firefighters sprayed water into flames that would not die easily. Medical teams searched for survivors. Daniel tried to go back inside, but a firefighter held him. "It's not safe," the firefighter said. "There are more inside," Daniel answered, trying to break free. The firefighter's face was tight with pain. "We know." The fire was controlled. The smoke remained. News drones filled the sky. Every channel on Earth showed the same image. A wide shot of the broken orphanage near the sea. The alien empire released a statement. It said the strike was an accident. It said they had detected a military energy signal hidden beneath civilian cover. It said they regretted the loss of life. On Earth, people watched the statement in silence. In the hospital across the city, Daniel sat in a hallway with bandages on his arms. His face was covered in dust. He stared at the floor. A doctor approached him slowly. "We are still counting," the doctor said gently. Daniel closed his eyes. In another room, Lila sat on a hospital bed. She had been outside near the gate when the beam hit. A metal fence had shielded her from the worst of the blast. Her hands were burned lightly. She stared at nothing. A nurse asked her name. She did not answer. By nightfall, the number was confirmed. 31 children. 4 caretakers. The world changed in a single day. In the capital city, leaders gathered in a secure underground chamber. The room was large and cold. Screens showed live images from the destroyed site. Some leaders demanded calm. They warned against fast action. The aliens said it was a mistake, one said. We cannot fight an empire larger than us, another said. A tall man in a dark uniform stood near the end of the table. His name was Marcus. He had served in Earth's defense forces for many years. He had seen conflict before, but never like this. He watched the screen without speaking. A replay of the strike played again. The beam was precise. Clean. Direct. Too precise. They claim they targeted a military node, one leader said. Marcus finally spoke. There was no military base under that orphanage, he said quietly. The room fell silent. How can you be sure? Someone asked. Because I checked that location myself last month, Marcus replied. It was chosen for safety. Far from any defense grid. Murmurs filled the chamber. Another screen showed protests beginning in cities around the world. People carried pictures of lost children. They held candles. Some shouted for peace. Others shouted for war. Marcus stepped forward. They did not just hit a building, he said. They sent a message. What message? A leader asked. Marcus looked around the table. That they believe we will accept it. No, one answered. Back at the hospital, Daniel finally stood and walked to Lila's room. He sat beside her bed. The flowers we planted, he said softly, we will plant them again. She did not look at him yet. Outside the window, the night sky was clear. The alien ships were still there. But something had changed. Across Earth, factories that once built peaceful machines began to receive new orders. Military networks moved to higher alert. Research labs were given emergency funding. Governments did not announce war. They did not announce peace either. In orbit, alien commanders reviewed data from the strike. Some were pleased with the show of strength. Some were uneasy at the speed of human communication networks lighting up. One junior alien analyst spoke quietly. Their response curves are rising faster than predicted, it said. A senior officer dismissed the concern. They are emotional, the officer replied. Emotion fades. On Earth, emotion did not fade. It settled. It hardened. Late that night, General Marcus stood alone on a balcony outside the council chamber. The city lights stretched far into the distance. He looked up at the orbiting ships. For the first time, he did not see visitors. He saw targets. Behind him, a door opened. The council wants your recommendation, a voice said. Marcus turned slowly. Prepare every fleet, he answered. And do it quietly. The voice hesitated. Are we declaring war? Marcus looked back at the sky. No, he said. His eyes were steady. We are preparing to survive.